How to Create a Glitch Monologues Season 25 Chapter 1. This is Season 25 of How to Create a Glitch in the Matrix Monologues Episode 1. In this episode, we will be discussing how synchronization of the cycles of bodily rhythm produce consensual and non-consensual realities. In a recent episode, we discussed how a stable consensual reality is hypothesized to be associated with a certain mathematical principle. That is, the ratio of the time it takes to complete the task relative to the period of the bodily cycle is equal to E multiplied by 10 to the exponent negative x, where x is the relative number of the cycle. The concept was that there is a power relationship between bodily cycles. Now, in this episode, we can observe that a bodily rhythm tends to produce a non-consensual intersection between two cycling individuals when their cycles become synchronized. That is to say, the cycles of two participants will tend to coincide or synchronize non-consensually, which will produce a situation of spatial intersection, and subsequently a potential territoriality issue. This tells us a few things. First, it tells us that when we give in to our bodily cycles, it represents an involution of our consensuality into non-consensuality. Thus, the cycling of our rhythms entails the cycling of our consensuality to non-consensuality and back again. The release associated with a bodily rhythm can be inhibited for some time, but ultimately it becomes non-volitional to give in to the impulse. As a result, we can see that it can generate a non-consensual space associated with some intersection to another individual associated with a synchronization of those rhythms. You can calculate through the frequency of synchronization, the frequency of the non-consensual oscillation. Which is to say, since you know your frequency of the cycle, and you know the frequency of intersection, you can figure out the synchronization frequency as a result. So, let's say, you overlap 3 times a day in your smoke breaks with some other. Your smoke breaks are once every 1.5 hours, with a 6-hour break for sleep. This means your frequency of smoking is 12 times a day, or on average, once every 2 hours. If you overlap or synchronize 3 times a day with some other, this tells us that the frequency of your non-consensuality is approximately every 4 hours. This also tells us that the gateway between yourself and the other participant reoccurs at the same frequency. Which is to say, that you are mirroring each other once every 4 hours for approximately 2 minutes, or however long your smoke breaks take. All of this is interesting, because it gives us real insight into the oscillation of our non-consensuality, and practically gives us a way of measuring both gateway formation and the oscillation of our non-consensual and consensual realities. That's the end of the podcast for today. If you enjoyed it, please like, comment and subscribe.